This video is brought to you by Ekster wallets. There are arguably no two single names bigger in the world of comics than Batman and Superman. Ever since their creations in the late 1930s, the duo have become cornerstones of the superhero medium, bringing it to the forefront of popular culture in comic books, television, and even film. Ever since Richard Donner brought the Man of Steel to the big screen in 1978, these two characters have pioneered the comic book movie genre, with the success of Donner's films and Christopher Reeve's iconic portrayal of Superman not only spawning multiple sequels, but also Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film, a movie which shed the camp of the 60s Batman TV series and brought the Caped Crusader to the height of mainstream success. With the storied history that both characters have had on the big screen, it's almost surprising that it took so long for the pair to finally meet. And while 2016's Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice did finally bring these two characters together, it wasn't actually the first attempt at making this type of film. In fact, over a decade earlier, Warner Brothers were hard at work at developing Batman vs Superman, with multiple scripts written, actors targeted to play each role, and marketing in place in the studio's other high-profile films. So in this video, I want to discuss the history behind this failed Batman-Superman film, explain the state of the pair's cinematic franchises during the early 2000s, and how this ambitious and ahead of its time movie was first conceived, and then ultimately what went wrong behind the scenes, and why this fascinating alternate version of Batman v Superman never saw the light of day. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. The Superman film franchise that had exploded onto the big screen in 1978, wowing audiences with the promise of "You'll believe a man can fly," had faded into obscurity by the late 1980s, following the monumental failure of Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. And whilst Canon Films initially attempted to course correct with a fifth film, it soon became clear that this franchise was beyond salvaging. As such, in 1993, Warner Brothers purchased the film rights from Canon and attempted to produce their own Superman reboot, hiring Tim Burton to direct and Nicolas Cage to take on the iconic role. But this project failed to materialise. However, it was around the time that this film fell apart that Warner Brothers' ongoing Batman franchise had begun to experience similar problems. You see, the fourth entry into the Batman series, 1997's Batman and Robin, was met with widespread criticism upon its release, causing the studio to shelve plans for a fifth instalment and instead work on retooling the character. As such, Batman and Superman were both on cinematic hiatus, and remained so until 1999, when Warner Brothers' new head Alan Horn promised that the studio would release 5 tentpole feature films per year, intending to revive the iconic heroes to help accomplish this goal. As a result, various ideas for films involving these two characters were pitched, with Andrew Kevin Walker, then best known as the screenwriter of David Fincher's Seven, submitting a treatment for a film that would star both heroes. Warner Brothers were intrigued by the notion of combining these two separate franchises, and as such, took Walker's script and hired Akiva Goldsman to rewrite it into a full-fledged Batman vs Superman film. In June of 2002, Goldsman completed his draft of the screenplay, as Wolfgang Peterson, who was recently coming off the success of 1997's Air Force One, was hired to direct. A 2004 release date was set soon after, as the casting search got underway, with a number of actors including Colin Farrell, Jude Law, Johnny Depp and Paul Walker being considered for either lead role, before Christian Bale, who was also in talks to join Darren Aronofsky's Batman Year One film, was approached to play The Dark Knight, whilst Josh Hartnett was offered the role of Superman. And although neither actor were officially cast, it did seem as if everything was falling to place for this film. Warner Brothers had set out plans to begin principal photography in early 2003, aiming for a 5 to 6 month shoot, and anticipation for this film was genuinely high within the studio. It appeared after years in the cinematic wilderness that Batman and Superman were finally set to make their triumphant return to the big screen. However, as we know, this film never came to fruition, and the reasons as to why it fell apart might be found in its screenplay. Goldsman's draft, dated June 21st, 2002, was a far darker and more somber film than you might expect. It would completely forego retelling either character's origin stories, and instead throw us deep into both heroes' careers. Right from the very beginning, we learn that Bruce has not been Batman for 5 years, following the deaths of Robin, Alfred, and Commissioner Gordon, and instead chose to lead a normal life with his fiancée Elizabeth Miller. Much of the first portion of the script is dedicated to Bruce and Miller's wedding, with notable guests such as Barbara Gordon, who has now become the Commissioner of Gotham, and Clark Kent as Bruce's best man. While the wedding is a rare moment of joy for Bruce Wayne, the honeymoon proves to be short-lived, as Elizabeth is shockingly killed by the Joker, who Bruce had long assumed to be dead. The death of Elizabeth leads to Bruce once again becoming Batman, attempting to discover just how the Joker has returned from the death, and attempting to exact revenge for the death of his wife. Meanwhile, Superman has also experienced personal hardships in recent years, being recently divorced from Lois Lane and returning to Smallville to reconnect with Lana Lang. However, once Clark learns about what has happened to Bruce and his quest for revenge, he attempts to confront his longtime friend and reason with him, only to discover that Batman is dead set on killing the Joker, and threatens Clark if he attempts to stop him. Unable to empathise with Batman, Superman instead confronts Lex Luthor, who is being held in prison, about his possible involvement in Elizabeth's death. As Batman ambushes the Joker and the pair begin to fight, with Bruce's anger taking control of him, struggling to contain the urge to finally kill his enemy. Superman arrives though before he can, telling Bruce that in order to murder the Joker, he'll first have to go through him. Now, this leads to a rather epic in stature fight between the two heroes, with Batman revealing a kryptonite-laced battlesuit designed purposefully to take down the Man of Steel. As the pair tumble throughout the city, Superman uses his freeze breath to destroy Batman's new armour, and in return, Bruce shoots him with a kryptonite arrow, immobilising him. With Superman down, Batman once again apprehends the Joker, beating him down senselessly and preparing to finally kill him. With Bruce's hand gripped around the Joker's throat, the Clown Prince of Crime reveals the truth behind Elizabeth's death. That the entire thing was actually orchestrated by Lex Luthor, who cloned both the Joker and Elizabeth in order to set in motion a plan that would see the Dark Knight, in anger, kill Superman. Batman, shaken by this revelation, eventually chooses not to kill the Joker, and as Superman gets to his feet witnessing Bruce's decision, Lex emerges in his own armoured battlesuit, disappointed that his plan had failed, and declaring that he must now kill both of them. Superman and Batman then team up to fight Lex, unable to withstand the power of his suit on their own. Eventually, the duo manage to work together and defeat Luthor, with the three tumbling from a balcony before Superman is able to catch Batman, leaving Lex to fall to his apparent death. With the day now saved, Batman and Superman reconcile and make amends, with Bruce thanking him for not allowing him to kill the Joker and succumb to his worst urges. The pair embrace, and Batman asks Superman if he wants to grab a beer, with Clark joyfully replying that he'd prefer a soda, as the two heroes put away all the pain and hardship they've endured throughout the last number of years, and finally share a laugh as the credits roll. Honestly, having read the original Batman v Superman script when researching this video, I genuinely find a lot of the ideas within it to be fascinating. One of the things that stood out to me most when reading it was that despite the fact that Warner Brothers were looking at actors in their 20s to play Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, they were both characterised in the script as being noticeably older. It honestly makes me wonder if the original intention behind this film was to serve as a loose sequel to the previous Batman and Superman movies, mostly due to the fact that major Batman characters such as Alfred and the Joker were dead in the continuity of this film. Now, while some of these aspects from the previous Batman and Superman films may have been referenced in Goldsman's script, it should be noted that tonally, this film would have been a massive deviation from any of the films that had come before it. In a lot of ways, this screenplay feels like the antithesis to films like Batman and Robin and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. It's a very somber and depressing story that, while it does have its fair share of fantastical elements, grounds both lead characters in pain and tragedy. Akiva Goldsman actually discussed this in a recent interview, stating that,
"We were in prep and it was the darkest thing you've ever seen. It started with Alfred's funeral and Bruce has fallen in love and renounced being Batman. The Joker kills his wife and then you discover it was all a lie, just that the love itself was constructed by the Joker to break Bruce. It was a time where you would be able to get these sort of stories together in script form, but they couldn't quite land in the world."
Despite these intentions though, this version of Batman vs Superman never saw the light of day. Now, while filming was set for 2003, the cameras never actually rolled for this highly anticipated Clash of the Titans, with Warner Bros. Putting the film on the back burner in favour of standalone reboots for both Batman and Superman. David Hughes, in his book Tales from Development Hell, actually cites the coinciding production of J.J. Abrams' Superman flyby film as a major factor in BVS's collapse. He writes that,
"On the 5th of July, Alias creator J.J. Abrams had turned in the first 88 pages of a new standalone Superman script, designed to be the first of a trilogy. Bob Brassel, a senior vice president for production at the studio, called producer John Peters, urging him to read the work in progress. Abrams delivered the remaining 50 pages of the script in mid-July, just as Spider-Man began its amazing assault on box office records, suggesting that light and airy, not dark and powerful, was the way to go with superhero flicks.
As a result, Abrams' pitch for a standalone Superman film was fast-tracked by Warner Bros., with President Alan Horn announcing soon after that the studio planned to focus on reintroducing both characters in their own individual films, telling The Hollywood Reporter,
"I'd like to think that each character will evolve so much that when we have Batman vs Superman, the meeting of the two will feel more organic."
The plans for standalone movies eventually morphed into 2005's Batman Begins and 2006's Superman Returns, and by the time that both films were released in cinemas, the very notion of a crossover film between these two icons seemed like that of a bygone era. Obviously, Batman vs Superman did eventually make its way to the big screen, serving as the follow-up to 2013's Man of Steel, the reboot of the Superman franchise after the mixed response to Returns. But while a similar project to this did eventually come to fruition, it's fascinating to think that in 2004, a very different Batman-Superman movie was almost made. This film would have served as the grand cinematic return for both characters, and possibly could have prevented films like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight series from even being made, or at least dampen the significance of this more grounded take on the Caped Crusader. Looking back at what might have been some 15 years later, I find it interesting to envisage just how different things could have been if this movie saw the light of day. In a lot of ways, Goldsman and Walker's BVS feels like a strange midpoint between the Tim Burton and Richard Donner eras of DC's films and the modern era ushered in by filmmakers like Nolan and Zack Snyder. It incorporates aspects of both eras of storytelling, and it's genuinely hard not to wonder what the response would have been if this film had hit theatres in 2004. We will never know the answer for sure, but I think it's fair to say that the landscape of comic book movies would have been drastically changed. Maybe a follow-up film to this would have introduced the Justice League, years before Marvel's now iconic Avengers film was even conceived. Or maybe it would have failed to meet audiences' expectations and set the futures of Batman and Superman on the big screen back by another number of years. In the end though, as intriguing as this failed film is, it's hard not to think that things ultimately turned out for the best. But as Batman and Superman stand shoulder to shoulder once again in Zack Snyder's Justice League, much like they have in the comics for generations, it's fun to think about how things almost could have turned out so differently, and ponder just what could have been if the original Batman vs Superman film had made its way to the big screen. I'd just like to thank Ekster Wallets for sponsoring today's video. Ekster is the world's largest smart wallet brand, offering innovative designs to improve the way you carry everyday items. Ekster's wallets have quick card access, meaning you don't have to fumble around for every card that you might need. And they're all RFID protected so that your cards, money and identity are safer than ever before. They're also trackable worldwide and run on solar power, with just 2 hours of sunlight giving you up to 3 months of charge. Ekster are currently running a 15% sale on all of their products on their website, but if you use the link in this video's description, you can get an additional 5% off, making it a total discount of 20%. Do go and check Ekster Wallets out using the link in the description, and thank you to Ekster for sponsoring this video. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this one and you might want some more videos, there should be some on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help me make more videos, you can go to patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. And if you want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter, just at OwenLikesComics. That's all for this video though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So until then, take care and keep reading.